The massive ships floated through space like metal cities moving between the stars. Han Wu stood at the observation deck watching the endless black space filled with tiny lights. He had dreamed of this moment his entire life. The year was 2387, and humanity was finally going to meet other intelligent life forms, and the galaxy 10 million humans were aboard these giant ships, traveling toward a place called Harmony Prime. It was a huge space station where 12 different alien species lived and worked together. The journey would take 2 years, but everyone was excited. They were going to represent all of humanity in the biggest meeting in human history. Ambassador Han Wu was the leader of this massive diplomatic mission. He was 50 years old with gray hair and kind eyes that showed his years of experience in difficult negotiations. Back on Earth, he had solved many problems between different countries. Now he faced the ultimate challenge, talking to beings from completely different worlds. So Young was the smartest scientist on the mission. She had spent 15 years studying alien signals that Earth had been receiving. Her laboratory was filled with computers trying to decode alien languages and understand their technology. She believed that humans and aliens could learn amazing things from each other. Captain Jin Ho commanded the largest ship in the fleet. He was a military man, but his job was peaceful. He made sure all 10 million people stayed safe during the long journey. His ship had gardens where people could walk and remember Earth. It also had schools where children learned about the alien species they would meet. Professor Mi Kyung was the cultural expert. She knew everything about human art, music, literature, and traditions. Her job was to show aliens the beautiful things that humans had created. She carried with her the greatest works of human civilization, from ancient Korean poetry to modern symphonies. The ships were like floating cities. Each one had millions of people living inside. There were doctors, teachers, engineers, artists, and families with children. Everyone had volunteered to be part of this historic mission. They left behind their homes on Earth because they believed they could build something better among the stars. Every day, people practiced speaking alien languages. The sounds were strange and difficult, but humans learned quickly. Children played games where they pretended to be different alien species. Adults studied books about alien customs and traditions. They wanted to show respect and make good first impressions. The cargo holds of the ships were filled with gifts from Earth. There were samples of human food, art, technology, and music. They brought medical knowledge that could help sick aliens. They brought stories and movies that showed the best of human nature. They even brought soil from Earth so aliens could see where humans came from. As weeks turned into months, the excitement grew stronger. People held festivals celebrating their journey. They sang songs about the stars and told stories about what they hoped to find. Artists painted pictures of alien worlds, and musicians composed pieces inspired by the mystery of space. Han Wu spent his time preparing for the negotiations. He studied reports about each alien species. Some were very tall and thin, others were short and covered in fur. Some breathed different gases and lived at different temperatures, but all of them were intelligent and had built amazing civilizations. So Young worked day and night in her laboratory. She discovered that some alien species had medical problems that human science might solve. Human DNA was different from alien DNA in ways that could be helpful. She prepared presentations showing how humans could contribute to galactic medicine. Jin Ho made sure the ships stayed on course and everyone stayed healthy. He organized sports and games to keep people active during the long journey. He also prepared for the moment when they would arrive at Harmony Prime. His job was to make sure the first meeting went smoothly. Mi Kyung organized cultural events where people shared the best of human creativity. She set up art galleries in the ships where people could see paintings, sculptures, and crafts from every culture on Earth. She arranged concerts where musicians played traditional songs from different countries. The closer they got to their destination, the more amazing space became. They saw stars and planets unlike anything visible from Earth. They passed by nebulas that glowed with beautiful colors. They witnessed cosmic events that took their breath away. Space was more wonderful than they had ever imagined. When they were 1 month away from arrival, the aliens made contact. The first alien voice heard by humans was gentle and welcoming. It spoke in broken human language, saying that the Andromeda Collective was excited to meet Earth people. This moment was broadcast live to Earth. and billions of humans celebrated. The alien voice belonged to a species called the Gentle Ones. They were peaceful creatures who had been the first to suggest inviting humans to join the galactic community. Other species were more cautious, but the Gentle Ones believed humans would bring something special to their civilization. Yin Wu spoke to the aliens through the communication system. He thanked them for their welcome and promised that humans came in peace. He explained that Earth people only wanted friendship, trade, and the chance to learn from older, wiser civilizations. The aliens seemed pleased with his words as the ships prepared for their final approach to Harmony Prime. The humans could hardly contain their excitement. They were about to make history as the first Earth people to visit an alien space station. They would walk in the same halls as beings from 12 different worlds. Zhou Young checked her equipment one more time. Her medical samples and research could revolutionize healthcare for multiple species. Jin Ho reviewed the docking procedures to make sure their arrival would be perfect. Meek Young practiced her presentation about human culture. The 10 million humans aboard the ships represented the very best of Earth. They were scientists, doctors, teachers, artists, engineers, and ordinary people who wanted to be part of something greater than themselves. They carried with them the hopes and dreams of everyone back on Earth. Children pressed their faces against the windows trying to catch the first glimpse of Harmony Prime. Adults double-checked their gifts and prepared their best clothes for the welcome ceremony. Everyone believed they were about to begin a new golden age for humanity. The ship's communications systems buzzed with messages from Earth. Families sent love and support to their relatives on the mission. World leaders offered encouragement. Scientists shared last-minute discoveries that might interest the aliens. Everyone on Earth was watching and hoping. Yin Wu looked out at the stars and felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He was about to speak for all of humanity in the most important conversation in human history. He took a deep breath and prepared himself for whatever came next. The great adventure was about to begin, and 10 million humans traveled toward their destiny among the stars, carrying nothing but hope, friendship, and the best intentions of their species. They had no idea that some aliens had very different plans for their peaceful mission. 3 months had passed since the human ships docked at Harmony Prime. The massive space station was more beautiful than anyone had imagined. It was built like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space with different sections for each alien species. The humans had their own area, but they spent most of their time visiting other parts of the station. Ambassador Hyun Woo was pleased with how the negotiations were going. The talks happened every day in a huge meeting room where representatives from all 12 alien species sat around a circular table. The aliens asked many questions about Earth and human culture. Some seemed very interested in making friends with humanity. Dr. So Young had become something of a celebrity among the alien scientists. Her medical research impressed everyone, especially the healers, who were bird-like creatures with amazing knowledge of biology. She showed them how human immune systems worked differently from alien ones. Her discoveries could help cure diseases that had killed millions of aliens. Captain Jin Ho spent his time learning about alien technology and sharing human innovations. The station had incredible machines that could create food from basic elements and computers that thought almost like living beings. He made friends with many alien engineers who were amazed by human creativity. Professor Meek Young held cultural events almost every day. Aliens came to see human art, listen to human music, and watch human movies. The most popular were the emotional stories about love, friendship, and sacrifice. Many aliens cried during human films because the emotions were so powerful and real, but not all aliens were happy about the human presence in the darker corners of Harmony Prime. A group called the Purity Alliance met in secret. They believed that allowing humans into the galactic community was a terrible mistake. They thought humans were too violent and dangerous to trust. General Vexmore was the leader of the Purity Alliance. He was a tall reptilian creature with sharp teeth and cold yellow eyes. He had studied human history and was horrified by all the wars and conflicts on Earth. He believed humans would bring nothing but chaos to their peaceful galaxy. The Purity Alliance included members from 6 different alien species. They spread rumors about human aggression and showed videos of Earth wars to other aliens. They pointed to human weapons and military history as proof that humans could not be trusted. They wanted To stop the friendship before it began, Vex Moore had a plan that he shared only with his closest allies. The plan was simple, but terrible. They would eliminate the human delegation in a way that would scare other species away from Earth forever. They wanted to send a message that humans were not welcome in their galaxy. The general began moving his supporters into key positions throughout Harmony Prime. They took control of the station's security systems and communication networks. They placed weapons in hidden locations and prepared their soldiers for what was coming. The humans had no idea what was being planned. Meanwhile, the human diplomats continued their work, believing that they were building lasting friendships. Hyun-woo was especially excited because several alien species had agreed to preliminary trade agreements. Earth could provide food and raw materials while aliens shared their advanced technologies. Oh Young made a breakthrough in her medical research. She discovered that human antibodies could fight a disease that had been killing young aliens for centuries. The alien doctors were amazed and grateful. They began calling her the Great Healer and honored her with special ceremonies. Jin-ho learned to operate alien transportation systems and helped improve the space station's efficiency. His engineering skills impressed even the most advanced alien technicians. They started working together on projects that could benefit all species in the galaxy. Myung organized the biggest cultural festival in the station's history. Thousands of aliens attended to see human performances. The event featured everything from traditional Korean dances to modern human symphonies. The aliens were amazed by the diversity and beauty of human culture. As the months passed, the humans began to feel truly at home on Harmony Prime. They made friends with aliens from every species. Children played together despite their different appearances. Adults worked on joint projects that seemed impossible before. The future looked bright and full of possibilities, but Vex Moore was getting impatient with his secret plans. He knew that the longer humans stayed, the more alien species would accept them. Several groups were already asking to visit Earth, and some young aliens had started learning human languages. The friendship was growing too strong. The general decided to act during the signing ceremony that would officially welcome humans into the Andromeda Collective. The ceremony was planned to be the biggest celebration in galactic history. It would be broadcast live to every planet and space station in the galaxy. Vex Moore convinced the other alliance leaders that this was their last chance to stop the humans. Once the treaties were signed, it would be too late. The humans would have official protection, and killing them would mean war with the entire collective. The plan had to work perfectly. The reptilian general met with his commanders in a secret room deep inside the station. He told them that they were saving the galaxy from a future of violence and chaos. He said that killing the humans now would prevent millions of deaths later. His officers believed him completely. They spent weeks preparing every detail of their attack. They would wait until the ceremony was at its most important moment, when all the cameras were focused on the signing. Then they would strike quickly and completely. No human would escape alive. The humans continued planning their celebration. Completely unaware of the danger, they prepared special gifts for each alien species and practiced speeches in different alien languages. They wanted the ceremony to be perfect because it represented the beginning of a new age. Wu worked late into the nights preparing his final speech. He wanted to thank the aliens for their welcome and promise that humans would be good members of the galactic community. He practiced the words in front of a mirror, not knowing he would never get to speak. Theme So Young prepared presentations about the medical advances that human and alien scientists could achieve working together. She had slides showing how they could eliminate diseases and extend life for all species. She was excited to share her vision of a healthier galaxy. Jin-ho organized the technical aspects of the ceremony, making sure all the communication systems would work perfectly. He wanted beings across the galaxy to see this historic moment. He tested every camera and transmission device, not knowing they would broadcast something terrible. Instead, Mi-kyung planned cultural performances that would celebrate both human and alien traditions. She arranged for musicians from different species to play together, creating new types of music that had never existed before. She believed they were creating art that would last forever. The ceremony was set for exactly 100 days after the humans first arrived at Harmony Prime. The number was chosen because it was considered Lucky by most alien cultures, everyone was excited and looking forward to the historic moment, but while the humans prepared for celebration, Vexmore prepared for massacre. The general looked at his plans one final time and smiled with his sharp teeth. Soon the galaxy would understand that humans were too dangerous to exist. The betrayal was about to begin. The Great Hall of Harmony Prime had never looked more beautiful. Decorations from 12 different worlds hung from the ceiling, creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. 10 million humans filled the enormous space, wearing their finest clothes and carrying gifts for their new alien friends. The ceremony was about to begin. Ambassador Han Wu stood at the center podium wearing the traditional Korean hanbok that his grandmother had made for him. Decades ago, he held the peace treaty in his hands, the document that would make humans official members of the Andromeda Collective. His heart was full of joy and hope for the future. Dr. So Young sat in the front row with the alien scientists who had become her close friends. The healers had given her a special necklace made from crystals that glowed with soft blue light. It was their highest honor, and she wore it proudly. The medical breakthroughs they had made together would save millions of lives. Captain Jin Ho managed the technical aspects of the ceremony. Cameras from across the galaxy were focused on the event, broadcasting live to billions of viewers. This was the most watched event in galactic history. The moment when humanity officially joined the community of civilized worlds. Professor Meek Young conducted a combined orchestra of humans and aliens playing a piece of music she had written specially for this day. The harmony between different instruments from different worlds was beautiful beyond description. Children from every species danced together on the stage. The alien representatives took their places around the signing table, each one wearing ceremonial robes from their homeworld. The gentle ones brought flowers that changed colors with emotion. The crystal singers hummed melodies that made the air itself seem to sparkle with joy. Billions of humans on Earth watched the broadcast with tears of happiness in their eyes. This was the moment their species had dreamed of. For centuries, first contact had led to friendship, and friendship was about to become family. The future seemed limitless and bright. In the secret control room, General Vexmore watched the ceremony with cold yellow eyes. His clawed hands moved over the weapon controls that he had installed throughout the station. In a few minutes, the celebration would become a slaughter that would echo across the galaxy forever. The reptilian general spoke into his communication device, giving final orders to his soldiers. Hidden throughout Harmony Prime, they were positioned in every section of the Great Hall with energy weapons aimed at the unsuspecting humans. The trap was perfectly set. Hyun Woo began his speech, thanking the aliens for their welcome and promising that humans would be worthy members of their community. He spoke about the great things they could accomplish together, exploring the stars and building a better future for all intelligent life. As the ambassador spoke about peace and cooperation, Vexmore gave the signal to his soldiers. The attack began instantly. Without warning, energy beams filled the air, cutting down humans who moments before had been smiling and applauding. The screaming started immediately. So Young tried to protect a group of young scientists near her, but the weapons were too powerful. She fell beside the alien friends who had honored her. Their glowing crystals were scattered across the floor, mixing human blood with alien. Tierson Ho fought desperately to reach the communication systems to warn Earth, but enemy fire blocked his path. He fell while trying to shield a family with small children. His last words were a warning that no one would hear because the aliens controlled all transmissions. Mi Young was struck down while still conducting her orchestra. The music stopped in the middle of a note as musicians from different worlds died together. The instruments fell silent and the dancing children collapsed on the stage, their dreams ending in violence. The humans had no weapons and no way to defend themselves. They had come in peace, carrying gifts instead of guns. The aliens who had welcomed them as friends now hunted them through the corridors of Harmony Prime like animals in a trap. Ambassador Hyun Woo crawled toward a communication panel. Even as energy beams burned around him, he managed to activate an emergency transmitter and spoke his final words to Earth. Remember our sacrifice. Do not let them destroy what we tried to build. Show them what humans become when pushed too far. The massacre continued for 6 terrible hours. Vexmore wanted to make sure every human was dead and that the galaxy saw everything. The cameras continued broadcasting the slaughter to shocked viewers across the stars. Many alien species watched In horror, not believing what they were seeing, children were killed while hiding behind their parents. Students died while still holding their research notes. Artists fell while their paintings burned around them. The aliens showed no mercy to anyone. Regardless of age or innocence, the killing was complete and systematic. Some humans tried to surrender, but the Purity Alliance soldiers ignored their pleas for mercy. This was not a battle, it was an extermination designed to send a message to Earth and any other species that might try to join the galactic community. As the final humans died, Vexmore broadcast a message to Earth using their own communication systems. "Stay in your corner of space," he said with satisfaction. "You are not welcome. Among civilized beings, your people came here uninvited, and this is what happens to uninvited guests." The general believed that humanity would retreat in fear after seeing such overwhelming violence. Most species would hide after losing so many of their best people, but Vexmore did not understand humans as well as he thought. He died on Earth. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Riots broke out in every major city as billions of people watched their loved ones die on live television. Footage was replayed, constantly burning the images of violence into every human mind. President Taehyun called an emergency meeting of all world leaders. The man who had supported the peaceful diplomatic mission now faced a population screaming for revenge. The massacre had not broken human spirit, it had transformed it into something the galaxy had never seen before. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were dealing with a weak species that would run away when threatened. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could imagine. The sleeping giant of human warfare was about to wake up. Within hours of the massacre, every nation on Earth began mobilizing for war. Factories that made civilian goods were converted to weapon production. Peaceful research projects were redirected toward military applications. The entire human race focused on a single goal: making the aliens pay for their crime. Vexmore watched the early reports from Earth with satisfaction. The humans were angry, but what could they do? They were a primitive species trapped in their own solar system, while the aliens controlled most of the galaxy. The threat was over before it could begin, but intelligence reports began arriving. That changed everything. Spy satellites detected massive industrial activity on Earth and her colonies. Ships were being built at impossible speeds using technology that aliens did not know humans possessed. The primitive species was not so primitive. After all, the general realized too late that humanity had hidden their true capabilities during the diplomatic mission. They had seemed peaceful and harmless because they wanted to make friends, not because they were weak. Now the mask was coming off, and the galaxy was about to see what humans really were. Deep in hidden bunkers across Earth, military leaders planned their response. The species that had sent diplomats carrying flowers and music was about to send soldiers carrying death and destruction. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived and thrived on a dangerous world. The 10 million dead humans had become 10 million martyrs, and their sacrifice would be avenged by weapons the aliens had never imagined. The massacre at Harmony Prime had not ended humanity's dreams, it had begun their conquest of the stars. The emergency session of the United Earth Assembly had never seen anything like this. Representatives from every nation sat in stunned silence as the final footage from Harmony Prime played on the massive screens above them. 10 million of their best and brightest citizens had been slaughtered while trying to make friends with alien species. President Taehyun stood at the podium, his face showing the weight of terrible responsibility. He was the leader who had approved the diplomatic mission, believing that humanity could find peace among the stars. Now he faced a world that demanded blood for blood. The Korean president looked older than his 60 years as he began to speak. His voice was steady, but everyone could hear the anger beneath his calm words. "Citizens of Earth," he said, "we sent our children to the stars carrying gifts and songs of peace. They answered with genocide." Behind him, the screens showed images that would haunt humanity forever. Human families torn apart by alien energy weapons, children killed while trying to hide behind their parents, scientists murdered while presenting medical breakthroughs that could have saved millions of alien lives. President Taehyun continued his speech. "The aliens wanted to show us our place. They wanted us to crawl back to Earth and hide among our own kind. But they do not understand what they have done. They have not killed 10 million diplomats, they have created 10 million martyrs. The assembly hall erupted in applause. That lasted for 10 minutes. Representatives stood and shouted approval while across Earth billions of humans watched and cheered. The peaceful diplomatic approach was dead, replaced by something darker and more dangerous. Today, we declare that genocide against humanity will not stand, the president announced. Today we unite as one species with one purpose. Today we go to war. The final words echoed through every human settlement from Earth to the outer colonies of the solar system. Within hours of the declaration, every nation on Earth abandoned their differences and formed the United Human Military Command. Political parties that had fought for decades worked together. Factory owners shared resources with competitors. Scientists abandoned civilian projects to work on weapons of war. The transformation was unlike anything in human history. The same species that had sent musicians and poets to meet the aliens now spoke only of vengeance. Every human colony contributed to the war effort. Mining stations in the asteroid belt tripled their production of raw materials. General Dongmin was chosen to lead the military response. He was Earth's most experienced commander, having studied every form of warfare in human history. His strategy was simple and brutal: total victory through overwhelming force. The aliens had shown no mercy and would receive none in return. The general addressed his staff in the newly built war room beneath Seoul. They showed no mercy to our people, he said, his voice hard as steel. We will show them what human mercy looks like when it has been exhausted. We will teach them why predators fear their prey. Secret facilities across Earth began revealing their true purpose. What aliens had thought were civilian factories were actually military production centers disguised to appear harmless weapons. Technology that humanity had kept hidden for centuries was finally brought into the light. The industrial mobilization broke every record in human history. Factories worked around the clock to produce warships and weapons. Civilian spacecraft were converted to military use. Students left universities to work in defense plants. Everyone had a role to play in the coming war. Most shocking was humanity's psychological transformation. The same people who had cried while watching their diplomats die now sang songs about alien destruction. Children, too young to understand diplomacy, learned to identify different alien species as targets for future battles. Dr. Hana led the Weapons Research Division. Her team had been studying alien technology from intercepted communications for decades. They knew exactly how alien shields and armor worked, and they designed weapons specifically to defeat these defenses. Admiral Kyung-soo commanded the naval construction program. His shipyards produced vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. While alien ships were built for traditional space combat, human warships were designed for total destruction of everything in their path. The Psychological Warfare Division was led by Professor Jae-min. His job was to make sure the galaxy understood what happened to species that harmed humans. The same propaganda techniques the aliens had used would be turned against them with devastating effectiveness. Religious leaders across Earth declared the war a holy crusade. Minister Park spoke for billions when he said the aliens have committed the greatest sin in the universe, the murder of innocents who came in peace. God calls us to be his instruments of justice. The media coverage was unlike anything in human history. Every channel showed constant footage of the massacre mixed with images of weapons production and military preparation. The message was clear: humanity would never forget and never forgive. Children born after the massacre grew up in a completely different world than their parents had known. They learned military tactics alongside mathematics and studied alien anatomy. Instead of alien culture, the entire species became focused on war. President Tae-hyun met with military leaders every day, reviewing plans for the coming conflict. We are not just fighting for revenge, he told them. We are fighting to ensure that no species ever again mistakes human kindness for human weakness. The alien intelligence networks tried to understand what was happening on Earth, but they could not believe the reports. An entire species of over 10 billion beings had united with a single purpose. The peaceful diplomats had been replaced by an army that thought only of conquest. Scientists who had worked on cures for diseases now developed biological weapons. Artists who had painted pictures of alien worlds now designed propaganda posters showing human victory. Engineers who had built hospitals and schools now constructed massive weapons of war. The Transformation took 2 years, but when it was complete, humanity possessed the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Ships armed with weapons that could crack planets, soldiers trained to fight in any environment against any enemy. As the first human war fleets prepared to launch from Earth, President Taehyun gave his final speech before the attack began. "We offered you friendship," he said, speaking directly to the aliens. "You chose to give us war. We offered you the best of humanity. You chose to see the worst." The president paused and looked directly into the camera that would broadcast his words across the galaxy. "Now you will learn what the worst of humanity can do when you murder the best of humanity. Your lesson begins today." The war fleets launched from hidden bases throughout the solar system carrying soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. They were the children and students of the murdered diplomats, transformed into instruments of vengeance by alien cruelty. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had not been peaceful because they were weak. They had been peaceful because they chose to be. When that choice was taken away, the universe would learn why humans had conquered their own dangerous world. General Vexmore received reports of the human military buildup, but he dismissed them as impossible. A primitive species could not possibly threaten the advanced civilizations of the Andromeda Collective. He had no idea how wrong he was. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was coming for the aliens who had disturbed its rest. The massacre at Harmony Prime would be avenged by the complete destruction of everyone responsible. The age of human conquest was about to begin. The first human war fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Keth system, home to one of the Purity Alliance strongholds. Admiral Sun-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship Revenge of Harmony and watched as his enemy came into view. The alien world looked peaceful and beautiful, but he felt no mercy in his heart. Human fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Instead of the sleek, curved ships that aliens preferred, human vessels looked like flying weapons platforms covered in armor and bristling with guns. They had been built for one purpose: destroying everything that stood against humanity. Admiral Sun-ho had lost his younger brother in the massacre at Harmony Prime. His brother had been a teacher who volunteered for the mission because he wanted to show alien children how humans learned and played. Now Sun-ho would teach the aliens a different kind of lesson. The alien defense fleet moved to intercept the humans, but they were not prepared for what they faced. Human weapons fired projectiles that moved at incredible speeds, punching through alien shields like they were made of paper. Enemy ships exploded before they could even return fire. Colonel Yanju led the ground assault forces that landed on the planet's surface. Her soldiers wore armor that made them look like metal demons, and they carried weapons designed specifically for fighting different types of aliens. They had trained for 5 years to fight this war. The battle for Keth Prime was over in 6 hours. Human forces destroyed every military installation on the planet, but left the civilian population alive. Admiral Sun-ho broadcast a message to the surviving aliens telling them exactly why their world had been attacked. "You supported the murder of 10 million peaceful humans," he said. "Now you see what happens when you awaken human anger. Tell your leaders that this is only the beginning. We will find everyone who participated in the massacre, and they will pay for their crimes." The human forces left Keth Prime burning and moved on to their next target. They did not stay to occupy the world or steal its resources. They simply wanted to send a message that attacking humans had consequences. The galaxy watched the footage with growing fear. General Dongmin coordinated the military campaign from Earth using quantum communication systems that could send messages instantly across the galaxy. His strategy was to attack multiple targets simultaneously, so the aliens could not organize an effective defense. Human stealth ships appeared near alien worlds without warning. They would destroy military targets and disappear before help could arrive. The aliens never knew when or where humans would strike next. This psychological warfare was just as effective as the physical attacks. Captain Minho commanded a stealth destroyer that specialized in hunting alien commanders. His ship could become invisible to most sensors and strike without warning. He personally eliminated 12 high-ranking alien officers who had supported the massacre. The alien military tried to adapt to human tactics, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Most galactic warfare involved careful positioning and long-range energy weapon exchanges. Humans preferred to get close and destroy their enemies with overwhelming firepower. Dr. Sojin led the Biological Warfare Division, using her knowledge of alien anatomy to develop weapons that would only affect non-human species. The aliens had killed human doctors and scientists, so human doctors and scientists would return the favor. The psychological impact of human attacks spread faster than the physical damage. Alien civilians began demanding that their leaders surrender rather than face continued human assault. Some planets actually expelled Purity Alliance supporters to avoid being targeted by human forces. Admiral Yongmin commanded the siege of Harmony Prime itself, the space station where the massacre had taken place. His fleet surrounded the station and broadcast the final messages of the human diplomats who had died there. The aliens inside knew they were going to day the battle for Harmony Prime lasted 3 days, not because the aliens fought well, but because Admiral Yongmin wanted them to suffer. He could have destroyed the station in minutes, but instead he systematically eliminated its defenses while the defenders waited in terror. When human soldiers finally boarded the station, they moved through the same halls where 10 million humans had been murdered. They found General Vexmore hiding in his command center and captured him alive. The reptilian general would face justice on Earth. Professor Jae-sung had developed new communication technologies that allowed humans to broadcast their victories across the galaxy. Every alien world saw footage of human soldiers defeating enemies that had seemed invincible. The Purity Alliance began to collapse. The war had been going on for 3 years when alien resistance finally broke. Several species that had supported the massacre began asking for mercy. Some even offered to help humanity in exchange for protection from other aliens who blamed them for starting the war. Colonel Inesio led human forces in the liberation of alien concentration camps where some species had been imprisoned by the Purity Alliance. The freed aliens became some of humanity's strongest supporters, grateful for rescue from their oppressors. The galactic economy collapsed as trade routes were disrupted by human military actions. Alien governments that had seemed stable for centuries began falling as their populations demanded new leadership that could make peace with the terrifying humans. Captain Jiwoo commanded human forces during the final battle against the Purity Alliance fleet. The aliens fought desperately, but their weapons and tactics had not changed. While humans had been improving their technology constantly, the battle was over before it really began. General Vexmore was brought to Earth in chains to face trial for his crimes against humanity. The reptilian general who had ordered the massacre now stood before human judges who would decide his fate. The trial was broadcast live across the galaxy. The general tried to justify his actions by claiming that humans were too dangerous to be trusted, but the evidence of his war crimes was overwhelming. Recordings showed him laughing while human families were murdered. Video footage proved he had planned the massacre for months. Human prosecutors presented evidence that the Purity Alliance had committed genocide, not just against humans but against several other species as well. They had been planning to eliminate any race they considered inferior or threatening. The humans had simply been their first target. When the verdict was announced, Vexmore was sentenced to death by the same method his soldiers had used on the human diplomats. Energy weapon execution broadcast live to every world in the galaxy. The message was clear that justice had been served. The execution took place exactly 5 years after the massacre at Harmony Prime. President Taehyun spoke to the galaxy as Vexmore faced his punishment. This is what happens to those who commit genocide against innocent people. He said, let this be a lesson that lasts forever. With the Purity Alliance destroyed and their leaders dead, the remaining alien governments began surrendering to human forces. They had seen what happened to those who resisted and decided that cooperation was better than destruction. Their military forces laid down their weapons. Human fleets now controlled most of the former Andromeda collective territory. The species that had once seemed so powerful and advanced now existed only because humans allowed them to continue. The galaxy had a new master, and that master was not forgiving. The transformation was complete. The peaceful diplomats who had carried gifts and songs had been replaced by conquerors who carried weapons and demands. The aliens had created their own worst nightmare by attacking humanity. When it was trying to be friendly, Admiral Sung-ho established human military bases on dozens of alien worlds. Each base was a reminder of human power and a warning against future rebellion. The aliens who had once laughed at human primitiveness now feared human technology and determination. The war officially ended when the last Purity Alliance stronghold surrendered without a fight. The defenders had seen the footage of human victories and decided that dying for a lost cause was pointless. They opened their gates and begged for mercy. Humanity had won completely and decisively. Every species that had participated in the massacre had been defeated and punished. The galaxy that had rejected human friendship now lived under human rule. The lesson was learned, but the price had been terrible. 5 years after the final victory, President So-min stood at the rebuilt Harmony Prime Station, now renamed Memorial Station, in honor of the 10 million murdered diplomats. The galaxy around her had been completely transformed by human conquest, and she was about to address every intelligent species in known space. The space station had been rebuilt as a monument to human determination. It contained museums showing the peaceful diplomatic mission and the terrible massacre that followed. Alien visitors were required to tour these museums before conducting any business with human authorities. So-min was the daughter of one of the murdered diplomats and had spent her entire adult life working toward this moment. She represented the new generation of human leaders who had grown up during the war and understood power in ways their peaceful parents never had. Behind her stood representatives from every surviving alien species in the galaxy. They wore simple clothes instead of their traditional ceremonial robes, because humans had banned displays of alien military or political power. The message was clear about who ruled the galaxy now. Commander Hyjin oversaw the establishment of human colonial governments on former alien worlds. She had been a child when the massacre happened and had joined the military as soon as she was old enough. Her entire career had been spent enforcing human rule over alien populations. The irony was not lost on anyone. The species that had come offering friendship and cooperation now ruled through strength and fear. The gentle diplomats had been replaced by efficient administrators who tolerated no resistance to human authority. Dr. Woo-seok managed the rehabilitation programs for alien species that had supported the genocide. His job was to help them understand why their actions had been wrong and how they could earn limited trust from their human overseers. The process was slow and difficult. Human settlements had been established on the most important alien worlds, not as colonies but as ruling centers from which human governors controlled local populations. The aliens were allowed to maintain their cultures and traditions, but only under human supervision. The economic system of the galaxy had been completely restructured to serve human interests. Alien worlds provided raw materials and basic manufacturing, while all advanced technology was controlled by human corporations. The former galactic powers were now economic dependents. President So-min began her speech standing where Ambassador Han-wo had died years before we came to you in peace, she said, her voice carrying across the galaxy through communication networks now controlled by human technology. We offered friendship, cooperation, and the best of human civilization. The alien representatives listened in silence, knowing that any interruption would be seen as disrespectful to human authority. They had learned through painful experience that humans demanded complete attention when they spoke about the massacre and its consequences. You chose to answer with genocide. So-min continued, looking directly at the cameras that broadcast her words to every world. Now you live under human law, human protection, and human mercy. Learn from this. Teach your children. Never again will humanity extend its hand in friendship only to have it cut off. The president paused to let her words sink in before continuing. The old Andromeda Collective is dead. In its place we have established the human galactic empire, where the safety and interests of humanity come first. Any species that threatens humans will face the same fate as the Purity Alliance. The legal system that governed the galaxy was based on human law, with human judges making all important decisions. Aliens could participate in local government, but only under human oversight, and only if they had proven their loyalty through years of faithful service. Trade between worlds was conducted using human currency and according to human regulations. The aliens who had once controlled vast commercial networks now worked as employees in businesses owned and operated by human corporations. The economic transformation was as complete as the political one. Military forces throughout the galaxy were under human command, with alien soldiers serving only in support roles and only after extensive background checks and loyalty testing. The species that had once boasted of their military might now depended on human protection for their survival. Educational systems on alien worlds were required to teach human history and the lessons of the massacre. Children learned about the consequences of attacking peaceful diplomats. Alongside their traditional subjects, the goal was to prevent future generations from making the same mistakes. Some alien species adapted well to the new order and found that human protection allowed them to prosper in ways they never could under the old system. The gentle ones who had originally welcomed humans became some of their strongest supporters and were given special privileges. Other species struggled with human rule but lacked the power to resist effectively. They were watched carefully for signs of rebellion, and any groups that showed dangerous tendencies were quickly relocated to worlds where they could be monitored more closely. A few remote species, having learned of humanity's capabilities, chose to remain hidden in distant parts of the galaxy rather than risk contact. They sent secret messages acknowledging human supremacy and promising never to threaten Earth or human interests. The transformation of human society was as dramatic as the changes in alien civilization. The peaceful explorers who had sent diplomats carrying flowers had become galactic overlords who ruled through demonstrated strength. The massacre had changed humanity forever. Memorial Station served as both a seat of government and a reminder of what happened to species that underestimated human determination. Alien ambassadors who came to petition human authorities had to walk past displays showing the murdered diplomats before presenting their requests. President So-min concluded her speech with words that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Humanity tried peace and you gave us war. Humanity offered cooperation and you chose genocide. Now you have learned what humans become when their mercy is exhausted. The galaxy settled into an uneasy but stable peace under human rule. Most alien species focused on rebuilding their civilizations according to human standards, while a few worked to earn the trust and respect of their new rulers. The age of alien dominance was over forever. Years passed and the new order became accepted as normal. Young aliens grew up knowing only human rule, and many could not imagine any other way of organizing galactic civilization. The massacre at Harmony Prime became ancient history, but its lessons remained fresh. Humanity had achieved what the diplomatic mission had intended, but through conquest rather than cooperation. They had united the galaxy under a single government and created lasting peace between species. The cost had been terrible, but the result was undeniably effective. The species that had wanted only to share their music and art with alien friends had instead imposed their will on an entire galaxy. 10 million dead diplomats had been avenged by the subjugation of hundreds of billions of alien beings. The lesson was learned and would never be forgotten. Human children learned the story of the great betrayal and the righteous war that followed. They understood that their species ruled the galaxy not through accident, but through the sacrifice of those who had tried to make friends with monsters. The memorial to the fallen diplomats became the most visited site in the galaxy. Beings from every species came to pay their respects and to remember what happened. When peaceful intentions met genocidal hatred, the monument would stand forever as a warning to future generations. President So-min looked out at the stars from the observation deck where Ambassador Hyun-woo had once dreamed of friendship between species. Now those same stars belonged to humanity, and the dream of peace had been achieved through total victory over those who had chosen war. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace enforced by human strength rather than mutual respect. The age of innocence was over, and humanity had learned that sometimes the only way to protect peace is to be stronger than those who would destroy it.